Okay, I see there's been some discussions on where to place your shocks, and also some camber and toe questions or comments that I've seen. This is my Volcano, and as you can see, I have chosen to go in and down a little bit on my truck. I had it set up high in the top hole, which gave me a little less ground clearance. But I'm doing a little bit of a test here on this particular truck because I changed brands of axle shafts, and I hadn't tried changing my suspension location or my shock location change since I switched over to the HBI shafts. And anyhow, back to the shock situation first. When you change the shock angle, for instance, let's say you started out in the top outside hole. That's going to allow the springs to move freely. The shocks are going to move more freely up and down. You're going to have less preload on the suspension. So it's going to allow for really easy wheel travel. Okay, so I was doing quite a bit of jumping the other day, and I noticed that I was bottoming out really easy on just some minor jumps. So I went ahead and moved my shocks in and down one hole just to see how that changed everything. And since I have upgraded to the HBI shafts, hardened the diff cups, and installed the O-rings like I explained in a prior video, I haven't had any problems with the axle shafts. So I went ahead and changed my progressiveness so there's a little less preload now, so they're a little bit softer. So on like rough terrain or really bumpy terrain, it allows for the suspension to travel a little easier. So this is where I have decided to put them now that I have upgraded to the HPI shafts. When I was running the Red Cat shafts, I noticed that if I had my suspension up and in, it kept a little stiffer ride. It also lowered my ride height a little bit and kept the shafts at a straight angle. But I don't need to do that now because the HPI shafts are good and strong. Another thing that I want you guys to understand here is your camber and toe. Camber is the relation of the wheel as far as how it sits up and down. Is it parallel? Is it tipped in? Is it tipped out? Positive camber is out. Negative camber is in. If you want stability on the road and you've got your suspension nice and low, you want your camber to be pretty close to positive unless you're doing a lot of really harsh turning. If you're doing speed runs and things like that, you're going to want your camber to be pretty much straight. That's going to allow the truck to track really nice, really straight. If you're doing a lot of turning, or if you're doing a lot of going around in circles, on a track, you want your camber at a negative angle, just a little bit. As you can see, my tire is tipped in slightly, and that's because I do a lot of bashing. I do a lot of yard bashing. I turn a lot. I jump a lot, so I like my camber in just a little bit. That just helps with stability on corners, things like that. On the rear, I've seen a couple comments on the rear as far as why the tires are towed in from the factory slightly this way. Well, when you have rear toe, that helps with stability. That helps with acceleration stability. It keeps the truck from being squirrely so that the rear end doesn't slide out from behind itself. So a little bit of toe in is good. You want about 1/8 of an inch difference between the front and the rear. You want this to be from the center of the tread to the center of the tread. You want it to be about 1/8 inch less than what it is on the rear of the tire. So you take your measurement from here to here and from here to here. If you do have an adjustment on that on the rear of your rig, you want your rear tires faced in just a little bit, in towards the frame on the front and out a little on the rear. That'll help a lot with stability, with cornering. It'll help a lot with just how the truck handles and controls in general. On the front, I like to do similar. I like it cambered in a little bit, and I like my toe just a touch in on the front. That really helps with stability. Really helps with the way the truck handles on corners and turns. Another thing that I have heard a lot of questions about, especially on this Volcano, is you guys have talked about differential lube as far as what you're supposed to run in these. These cases are split on the top and the bottom, so you can't really run an oil in here because it'll leak out. Unfortunately, that's just the way this particular truck is designed. So what I run is I run a lithium grease. It's white lithium grease in my differentials on this particular model because it doesn't seem to leak out. Doesn't seem to have any problems leaking out. If you've got a case where it's split crossways horizontally rather than vertically, like top and bottom is the way this is split, if your case is split down the middle and you can pull the top of the differential off and the bottom is solid, you can run a differential lube like what you would run in an actual automobile, some 80/90 or something like that. Unfortunately, with this particular model, it'll leak all over the place. Another thing you can do when you tear these apart, I put sealed bearings on both sides, which helps keep dirt out of the differential. And also, if you do decide to run a lube, you can put a tiny bead of silicone around the two halves of the differential, just a small bit. Let it sit overnight, tipped upwards, where the pinion gear or the input shaft is facing down. You just set it overnight with a tiny little bit of silicone on there, and you can actually run differential oil as long as you have sealed bearings on the input shaft and on the output shafts. So if you guys have any other questions about differential lubes, shocks, shock oils, or anything like that, go ahead and get a hold of me, or you can leave a comment and I will post something about all the differential lubes, shock oils, weights, what they mean, how they affect the car. I plan on doing a video anyways. I'm waiting for my chart to come in so that I can post a chart as well. I ordered a whole bunch of team associated oils, and it comes with a chart exactly what the weights are for and what you should do with them. So as soon as that gets here, I will give you guys another video with all the different weights, and I'll show you what the oils look like. You know, I'll squeeze some out into a little cup so you can see the difference in thickness and what they do and how they affect the vehicle. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to comment. I'll make another video.